Welcome back, everyone. I'm here with Dr. David Morehouse. The last episode, we talked about his life change that happened in Jordan Valley when he was shot in the head, basically. And we ended with his interview with a psychologist in a military intelligence unit in Virginia, right?
Yeah, a special access program.
In a special access program in Virginia. And he was being interviewed and was presented documentation for a grill flame. So with that, we're going to start with, once you received those documents, what did you learn?
Well, being in this special access program, and it was my first one, as we discussed in the last episode, there are lots of things that were going on there that were quite odd and outside my normal purview as an Army captain, coming out of having commanded both a Ranger Company, which I considered special operations, and it is, and an Airborne Rifle Company, and now I'm standing here telling this guy that I'm having out of body experiences, and I had this vision after I get zinged in the helmet by a machine gun bullet. And he hands me these 3-4 blue folders and says, "I would give me your thoughts on these tomorrow." So I go back to my office, which is just one door down, and in the hallway, and we're in a skiff. So I sit there and I start reading these things, and it's clear in the text, which is a transcript. And there's a statement of, like a mission and coordinates and those kinds of things that are on there. And real flame is stamped at the top and bottom, secret, etc. And then it is clear that the two people that are talking or responding to each other are referred to by numbers, not names. Which that is the first time I'd seen that. So now they're referred to as a number. And it's clear that one person is directing the other person. And the other person is describing things not in the same physical location that the two individuals are talking. Because one person is asking the other person, "Okay, are you here or are you there? Okay, turn left and go that way. Describe what you see there." That person giving directions, I found out later, was called a monitor. And the other person was being called a viewer. But they wouldn't say that. They obviously didn't say that there. They called them sources. And so the thing that intrigued me was sketches. And what I was looking at is these are the remote viewing sessions that were done in support of the Iranian hostage rescue attempt. There were a stack of them that were done, but I was looking at the ones he pulled out to hand to me. Why were remote viewers being used in this particular mission? It's because the U.S. government had no intel on the actual embassy itself. So as Delta was at Dugway Proving Grounds planning this mission, the mission to go in with the helicopters, etc., and Delta, and to extract the hostages with a combat operation and with some Rangers as well, they didn't have knowledge of what the floor plan was. The floor plans were there at the embassy. And everybody that knew what the floor plans were, what the embassy actually looked like,
was a hostage.
Stairways down, stairways up. Where might they hold hostages? Are there windows? They didn't even know which windows had been bulletproof glassed and which ones hadn't. They didn't know which way doors open, where all the stairways were, anything. All the people that knew that were there. They were now hostages. The rest of the people in the Department of State, which I'm sure that problem has been remedied now, if that were ever to happen again. But in those days, the idea that somebody would go on, that's actually, what do they call it? That's U.S. soil in Iran. That's how that's looked at. So they never thought that anybody would go and take the embassy down. I'm not sure why. I mean, they certainly did it in Saigon, right? They did that, but we were planning on leaving anyway. Another story. But so they didn't have that intel. So they had 3 sources of intel. One was human intelligence, meaning that there were people on the ground attempting to look and find stuff, but there was really no way for them to get in and get, really good actionable intelligence that could be used by Delta as they were planning the raid. They used a lot of Ted Koppel footage. Ted Koppel had Nightline, where he would go in and he was interviewing Iranian guards and other things. And what started happening is they were strategically positioning the interviewer, Ted Koppel, and the camera, so that they were getting long shots of the building and other things that helped them build a picture of what was going on there. But they were also
who was strategically positioning the interviewer? Was like Ted Koppel working with the CIA or the DoD?
There had to be somebody either talking to him, or there had to be somebody on the ground who was receiving information, passing it on to him. And while I know most reporters would like to say, well, we try to remain neutral, I think in that particular case, there was really no neutrality. He was a source, right?
I don't think there's ever been, to be honest with you. But that's, again, I have a cynical mind.
But they were using that to try to get an idea and kind of build their own models to say, okay, could be here, could be there. But there's still so many blind spots in this. And so they were using remote viewers. They didn't know they were using remote viewers, but remote viewers.
So for the audience, for those who are unfamiliar, very, very succinctly, I know you have a pretty succinct definition. What is remote viewing?
Well, remote viewing, defined by the CIA and the Defense Intelligence Agency in short terms, is the learned ability to transcend space-time, to view persons, places, or things remote in space-time, to gather and report intelligence information on the same. That was kind of the single line, single sentence definition of what it was. The learned ability to transcend space-time, to view persons, places, or things remote in space-time, and to gather and report intelligence information on the same. That's what a remote viewer was. We'll talk more, I guess, about how that came about, but that's what I was looking at. I didn't know that at the time, but I'm looking at this. And probably the most intriguing thing of the night, because I kept poring over these and reading them and reading them again, looking at the sketches and reading them again. And I just picked up the phone and called my wife and said, I won't be home tonight. I have a lot of work to do. I read through the night, just reading and rereading and pondering and trying to wonder, thinking about what this could possibly be. Because, the very first go through on it, I read this. There was a picture of stairways down. There was a sketch drawn by the remote viewer of stairways down to a manhole cover and a door. And where that corresponded in the transcription is this person who was the monitor says to the viewer, "Are you outside where you're supposed to be now?" And the viewer, by number only, I'm labeling them now. The viewer says, "I am." And the monitor says, "Okay, pass through the wall and describe the contents of the room." Now, we're not talking about somebody physically passing the wall. We'll talk more about what that really is, but in the mind of the viewer, their perception is they're now passing through the wall. And then there's a sketch showing the room, like you're looking up above, looking down this large room. And that's the sketch that accompanies that. As this person goes through there and their perception changes, now you're seeing this big, wide open room. It says elevators over here and guard desk here and that kind of stuff. This was precisely the kind of intelligence that they wanted back. They wanted it to come back. Now, trust me, I don't know how much credence they gave it, but they didn't know the source. But as an Intel customer requesting for that information, when it's pushed back to them, they certainly consider it. And although it's not 100% accurate, never has been, but it's accurate to a degree that it bears consideration to see where it fits into the puzzle, right, of what they know or what they don't know. And there were locks drawn by remote viewers, locks that had Arabic writing on them. And there were, shown positions of heavy weapons, right, of cruiser weapons, 50 cal, 50 cal, 50 cal, armored vehicles, aircraft, a helicopter landed here and took off. All these different kinds of things are being put into these reports after they're doing session after session after session A session is approximately 60 minutes to 90 minutes of work in an altered state of consciousness, but we'll talk about that more. But that's what a remote viewer is doing. And then there's exchange between monitor and viewer, and then the viewer is, doing these memory sketches, they were called back then. And that stuff was being pulled together and sent off. That was powerful for me to read that. I mean, because I ask anybody, okay, so you're sitting in a top secret program, clandestine program, sitting in a skiff, you're reading classified material in front of you. We are actually reading a sentence where somebody tells a guy to pass through the wall and describe the contents of the room. I mean, all of the other things were, quite intriguing as well, but that one always sticks in my mind as kind of the trigger for holy cow, seriously.
Yeah, because you had no context, right? It could be, the first thing that popped in your mind, it might be somebody physically passing through a wall, right?
Yeah. And I was also trying to piece it together thinking,
if you enjoyed this video, please hit the like, subscribe, and notification buttons. Additionally, if you have any feedback, please put something in the comments below. And lastly, if you want to watch the full episode of this clip, you can find it above. Thanks again for watching.